Right, I'm here on the canal today, show you a little bit about bread fishing. Okay, and before we get started, I just want to show you how I prepare my bread, because I think that how people do the bread is it got a little bit lost over the years. I don't, you know, when we're going on commercials and that, and it's not been talked about as much. I think when I was growing up, there was a bit of a misconception with bread that you needed a big cloud and all the rest of it. Well, I don't work like that in my fishing. I want to make sure my bait, if I'm looking to catch on the bottom, my bait goes in, it goes to the bottom, and that's where the fish feed. So I literally got a couple of loaves of bread, slung them straight, it took the end crusts off, slung the rest straight in the blender, and then just popped it through a maggot riddle to make sure any big lumps were off, but there's still plenty of nice bits in there. That's crusts and everything, so I've not wasted anything. I got it off the reduced style as well, that's a good tip. Nice cheap bread, you don't be spending all your money. Right, just pop this bread into the bucket, and when you've liquidised it, it's going to be dry. It's not going to be moist enough, you know, especially if the bread is old. So as you can see there, the bread just literally breaks down because it's not got enough moisture in it to hold it together. So what I do is I add some gravel to the mix. You can see there in my container. Now, I think there's approximately about a loaf and a half in this mix, so I'm going to put quite a bit of the gravel in here. I want to make sure that there's plenty mixed in, so each ball has plenty of pieces of gravel to give it some weight. So once I've mixed that gravel in amongst the bread, I'll just get my atomizer and then just literally shake and keep wetting it up, and I keep my eye on it all the time, because all I'm looking to do is make sure that the whole mix has got plenty of moisture, so when it makes a ball it's not going to fall apart. So you can always add more, so just check it when you think it's about ready. Just have a little look there. No, needs plenty more water yet, which is good. I've no problem with that at all. Let's give that a go. See, I just turn it over with the bucket, and that's the important thing. If you just keep the mix turning over, you can hear the gravel rattling about in there, and that's it. The mix is starting to come together nicely now. You can see that, and it looks like a ground bait. That's effectively what you're trying to do. There we go. So now when I form a ball, you can see it stays. Look at all my finger marks. If I made this with two hands, I've got a really, really tight, compact ball that's going to go in, straight down, and then break up on the bottom, because there's no real binding properties there, so it'll just break up on the bottom. So that's how I prepare my bread, and as you'll see as the day goes on, in match fishing feature, I don't just feed one ball like this. I'll be very aggressive, and all this will be fed today. There's going to be lots of fish hopefully feeding. Let's keep them fed. Get your bread right, and there's plenty of fish to be caught. Right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about feeding today. Here on the Calder and Hebble navigation in Wakefield, we're looking at feeding punch. Now, bread is a really good way of attracting fish. I'm not really sure what the main properties are and why the fish come to it so much, but they eat it, and you're actually feeding something that they directly eat, and you're fishing a hook bait that's exactly similar. So what I like to try to achieve with bread is I like to feed it so it goes straight down to the bottom, and that's where I can catch them. Like I said, there is a way they do attract into a bit of a bread cloud, but the trouble is with that, they often drift off very quickly, so it's very important to get it down. So here I've got this very, very damp with lots of gravel added, so I can make a nice firm ball. And what I'm looking to do is I'm going to feed at the start on each line 2 or 3 balls, sort of that size. They will go in straight down to the bottom and break up, and that's where I can catch the fish. Now, the reason I fed 2 or 3 balls is because I want to try and create a bed of bread on the bottom for the fish to sit over, not just one little bit of bread that they come in, eat and bugger off. And when I look to top up, I often top up with a ball that size, the same size as what I started with. So you can see there, that sort of size, maybe after an hour, maybe after 20 minutes, maybe after 2 hours. The fish tell you when to top up. When you stop getting bites, that's the time to top up. And unlike other baits, I must admit that I like to find that sometimes when I top up with bread, I like to go straight back in on it, because often it brings some fish in straight away. If the fish aren't there, you can then come off it, rest it, and try something else. But for me, that's a really, really good way of feeding your peg to get good shoals of roach on the bread. Right, so the canal here in front of me is about 14 metres wide, and choosing where to fish I think is really, really important. So canals differ everywhere you sit down. Sometimes you'll have shallow water across, shallow water on the inside, or what we think of more traditionally, which is a boat channel down the middle, so starting shallow at both sides and coming into a deep boat channel down the middle. Now, what I've decided to do is I never like to fish right in the deepest water unless it's a flat area, a big flat area, and then sometimes I'll choose to fish there. But today it gradually slopes down in it almost like a V into the deepest point. So what I've done is I've found a place just out of that deepest water at about 6 metres and about 9 metres where I can feed two areas and keep fish coming. So the shorter line, that's where maybe I'll catch really quickly to start with, put maybe 2 or 3 pound quickly in the net, and then the longer line is probably where I'll keep bites coming for more of the day. So that's how I'm going to approach it today. Those two lines often will keep producing fish. Now, it is worth considering that sometimes you might catch a cross as well. You might want to use another bait there, or you might want to use bread up into that shallow water. So I've got around, say, 6 foot at those 6 and 9 metre lines, and probably only 3 foot across on the far bank. So a third option of fishing across on the far bank may also be very useful. Now, one of the most important things to consider with bread is what hook bait you're going to use in terms of the size. So I've got a piece of bread here that I've been using, like I say, medium thickness. Personally, I don't do anything to my bread, straight out of the bag into my bait tub. I've got my punches here. Now, picking the right size of punch comes from experience a little bit. When you open your punches, this has got like 2.5 to 7 mil, and that can be a little bit confusing what to decide. But actually, I only tend to use 2 when I'm fishing on canals for roach or maybe an odd skimmer. The first is the 4 mil punch. Now, 4 mil seems to be the optimum size for me. If you're using a 20, size 20 hook, something like that, it tends to puff up to a nice size, not too big that you miss any bites, but big enough to attract fish to your bait. When you use too small a piece of bread, often it just fades away to nothing, and you do get some bites, but you tend to get a couple of bites at the cherry with a 4 mil piece. The 5 mil punch, which is the next size up which I go to, is when I'm looking fishing maybe 1 inch, 2 inches on bottom, and there's an odd skimmer to catch. Often as well, if there's a lot of big roach, that can work well, but generally speaking, 4 and 5 mil are the only two sizes I use. Now, I've been fishing now for about an hour and a half, and the fishing's been good, and I've not had to top up. Those initial couple of balls I've fed hasn't really happened for me on the short line today as much as I would have liked it to, but I've caught nicely on my 9 metre line, but bites are starting to die up now, so I want to top up. Now, bearing in mind I fed 2 balls at the start, I don't see the point in feeding just a small ball of bread to top up with, because I probably want to try and catch for another hour off my next feed. I don't want to just try and keep it going now in little bits, because I don't think you're ever going to win the match that way, and obviously when I'm match fishing, that's my main goal. So just going to get some of my bread, make a decent sized ball like that, pop it in my cup and get it in, and hopefully that will bring the fish back. There'll still be little bits of bread left on the bottom from my initial feed, but it'll bring them back and they'll really get on the feed, and I can catch them for another hour. Right, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about rigs. I set up 2 types of rigs for when I'm fishing in situations like this. It's about 6 foot deep today, and my first rig is a 0.4. Okay, it's got a short tip on the float and a long wire stem at the bottom just for a bit of stability. And my shotting is dead simple. When I go bloodworm fishing, I like a bulk and 2 droppers, all quite compact near the hook. Bread's no different. My bait's down on the bottom, that's where I want the presentation. So I've got a small bulk here with a little dropper just to kick it away, and then 2 droppers beneath it and a short 5-inch hook length. Effectively, here I've got 5 inches to my first bulk, 4 inches to my next shot, and then 5 inches to my main bulk. And that just arcs everything away and keeps it neat. And this small float, you can see that I've just don't know if you can see, I've just set that just off the bottom. Okay, that mark on my pole indicates where the bottom is, so my bait will just stand proud of the bread on the bottom and it'll work perfectly. Just one note on the elastic. I've got a 3 elastic, but I've only got it through probably about 3 foot of pole, just so when I hook a fish it's nice and soft, but when I go to swing him in and keep my rhythm going, I don't have to overstretch the bottom. The elastic almost tightens out and I can swing the fish into a nice catchable distance. All of that combined means I can catch quite quickly. My other rig is just slightly improved from, slightly increased from this, in it being a 0.8 with a heavier bulk, just to get down a bit quicker in case I'm bagging. So there you have it. Cold, very cold day on the canal. We've had to put together a fantastic net of fish there. You can see they're a great stamp. Really nice fish there, probably 8 to 10 pound at least. Just fishing with bread. What a fantastic winter method to give you plenty of bites and really enjoy your day. Let's put them back.